Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 1 Million Cups Eau Claire. This is our weekly entrepreneurial meetup. 1 Million Cups is a national movement founded by the Kauffman Foundation in support of entrepreneurship, and specifically entrepreneurs who are less than 5 years in business. In Eau Claire, we meet once a week on Wednesday mornings, and 1 Million Cups comes from the name of 1 million cups of coffee that we're all gathered around the nation to celebrate entrepreneurship on Wednesday mornings. So this morning we have Jonah Stern with Studio 111 here to share her startup story. So I'll toss it over to you, Jonah. Take it away.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I'll just share my screen here. I'm a pretty visual person, so I thought some visuals would help everybody kind of get a glimpse of what I do. Does that look okay on your end? Okay, good, great. So again, my name is Jonah Stern. I own Studio 111, and Studio 111 is a part-time business, so it's mostly seasonal. I do most of my work in the early spring, and then things kind of shut down in the late fall, but I specialize in restoring and renewing outdated furniture. And then in addition to, I curate and refresh vintage items for your home. So this LLC started in 2017. It's operated mostly by myself, although I can't take all the credit. My husband, Aaron, is the biggest supporter, and he's always there to help me. And then my mom, Jan, she also comes to the rescue. So a lot of times if you'll see us out at shows, my mom will be there, so you can come and say hi. So just a little backstory. In the beginning, this idea was just kind of something I wanted to start for some supplemental income. It really lacked direction. I had founded my LLC, but I really hadn't found my niche. I was kind of just throwing things at the wall and hoping something would stick. So I dabbled in hosting painting classes. People would come into my home and we would paint a picture together, or I would go to people's private homes and do that. I sold some original artwork around the community. I did custom pet portraits. In the summers when I wasn't teaching, because I'm a full-time art teacher, I would be out in the garage refinishing furniture. And I kind of just started to do that as like a way to fill our house. It was something that was interesting for me. So again, I was kind of just like throwing stuff out there, seeing what would stick, kind of trying to create some supplemental income for Aaron and I. And eventually, I kind of really started to notice that furniture was the thing that was really sticking. I would put things out on Marketplace because Aaron wouldn't let me keep everything. And I was noticing that it would sell relatively quickly. And I was like, okay, well, here we go. This is something. And I started to notice that I really like doing it. So we do work out of our personal residence, which is really interesting for both of us. If you can see the bottom two pictures there, that's pretty much what our garage looks like most of the time. It looks a little bit different this year. We upgraded, we built a spray booth, so there's even less room, but we make it work. So moving forward, I kind of started dabbling in 2017 with furniture. By 2018, I was like, all right, this stuck to the wall, let's continue with this. And we were kind of coming to the end of the summer. And so end of summer is kind of like panic mode for me. Like the teacher in me starts to kind of take over, and I'm like, okay, I need to shift gears. I need to put on my other cape. And so Aaron was like, well, we have a lot of inventory, like a lot of furniture. What are you gonna do with all of this? And I was like, great question. So someone, I can't quite remember who, recommended to me a sale that was called Junkin' All the Way. And that year, I think it was the first time it ever came to Eau Claire, and it was hosted at the Lismore downtown. So I bought 2 booths, and I was like, we're gonna see how this goes. I literally hauled, I think it was like 12 pieces of furniture down to the show. So that's that bottom photo there. My booth was just packed. And so I was really fortunate. We literally sold everything but 1 piece. And that was a really pivotal moment for me. I was like, holy smokes, like we can do this. I can do this. And so from there, it's just kind of grown. And as I was thinking about this presentation and thinking about the growth of my business, I kind of like took a step back, and I had this really great teacher in high school, and we were making like vision boards or something at the time. And she told me, she's like, you know, it's okay not to know why you like something, but really you should pay attention to it because it's going to lead you down the path that you want to go. And so as I started thinking about what I want to do, what I want this business to be, I started recognizing, like, I love retail. I worked in this really adorable boutique in college, and I loved it. I learned so much from them. My parents were small business owners. We owned a restaurant for 20 years. I shouldn't say we, they. I was just there washing dishes all the time. But one thing that always resonated with me was my dad would tell me, like, you're either going to be your own employer or you're going to work for somebody else. And I always kept that concept in the back of my mind, like, oh, I really do. I like working for myself. I like that challenge. I do like marketing. I'm not super great at it. I don't have any background in it, but I do like it. Obviously, as an art teacher, I'm really in tune with the visual arts, and I just happen to like interior design. I like decorating my house. And then I do have a minor in art history, and it was kind of funny to think back, like one of my favorite classes in college was history of interiors. So that kind of led me down this like rabbit hole of these pieces of furniture that I was bringing in. I loved figuring out the history of them. So I would like Google the brand and like, oh, wow, there were only like 200 of these made. Like, this is really cool. Or, wow, this one has oak on the front of it. And this one has walnut. So it all kind of snowballed. And then my love of thrifting and vintage, which if my mom is watching, she'll probably laugh at me because, she would take me to like thrift stores and garage sales as a kid. And I would just like, oh, mom, like, ew, like, I don't want to go. And now it's like my favorite thing to do. Like, I'm rescuing these things. And I love giving them new life. So that's kind of like my little roadmap to where we are now. So like I said, I really tried to hone in my vision for my business, especially after that first show. I was kind of like, all right, we're gonna do this. So 3 main categories of my furniture refinishing is there's a true restoration. So literally I'm taking pieces and I'm making them like new again. So the chair on the left, we literally picked that up on the side of the road. My husband loves when we do that. And we made it brand new. Sorry, I have all these pop-ups keep happening. And then the second one is what I consider a transformation. So the piece is not gonna look anything like the original. It's gonna look completely different. And then the last one is kind of a mishmash. It's a revival. So we're taking some of the original piece and we're refreshing it, we're renewing it. So it's not completely all gone. So after my revelations in 2018 that I could do this, last summer, I really started to focus on building the business. Like, what am I gonna do to make myself stand out? So the first thing I did was I taught myself how to make a website. So I figured out how to buy a domain. Again, like, I'm not real tech savvy. I can do it. Obviously, I'm a young person and I can figure it out. But I really like doing things with my hands. So that was a big accomplishment for me. I started to also work on branding my images. So I ended up working with this great college student and he helped me create a logo that I really liked. And then I started to tag all my images, do some branding work out online. And that's kind of really helped set my business apart from other folks. And then I also worked really hard on developing a niche. There are lots of furniture refinishers out there, and they're all at really different levels. And the level that I constantly want to be at is the best, right? I want to do the best that I can 100% of the time. So that means properly preparing a piece. Like, I'm not just slapping paint on furniture. You have to sand the piece. You have to clean the piece. Sometimes you have to strip old finishes off. You have to use proper primer. High quality paint makes a difference. Are you gonna have a top coat? Like, all these things kind of come together to create a really high quality product that I want to represent. I also started to think about the different avenues. So when I first started, I was just buying furniture and I was just kind of doing what I wanted with it, which is really fun. It's really cathartic and I really like doing it. But it was really limited. Like, if I painted a piece green, I didn't know if anybody was going to buy it. I just kind of hoped they would. So I started building an inventory. So if you can see in my top photo there, we have a storage shed and it's filled. And so I can now offer my customers an inventory of pieces that they can choose from. So sometimes customers will come and say, hey, I have this dresser, will you refinish it? But 9 times out of 10, customers are coming to me like, hey, do you have a mid-century lowboy with 9 drawers? And I can be like, oh yeah, I have 4. Like, here, you can pick one. So it's really created another unique avenue for me. And it's kind of fun because we're always on the hunt. And so lastly, I'm continuing to really work hard on building my client base and building the engagement with them. So what's really interesting is that I did not start pushing my Instagram until like this year. And it's working and it's going well. But what's really funny is that most of my clients and followers really follow me on Facebook. That's just kind of where they are. So I've been trying to do things to engage them, like I'm letting them pick colors for dressers and kind of making it a little fun so that they can be in on the design process. And that's just worked out super duper well. So moving forward, I wanted to talk a little bit about like, hey, how does this work? So depending on if a client has a piece or not, they could send me photos of a piece they have. I ask for photos, rough dimensions, and then I want them to provide a brief explanation of kind of what they want done. If they don't have a piece, like I said, if they're looking for something like, oh, Jonah, I want a 4-drawer dresser that's oak. What do you have? I can kind of guide them that way. So from that point, I can give a rough estimate. And so estimates are sometimes a little challenging because it's based on a couple things. The first thing is the current condition of the piece, how big it is, materials needed to complete the project, and then the estimated time that it's going to take me. And for if anybody's watching that follows me, I just finished this massive dining room set. It's in my stories. It's called the Slovenian Beast. And so my joke with these clients was that now I'm going to have to ask how much pieces weigh because it was so heavy. Like I literally, I couldn't work on it a lot of the time without my husband's help because I couldn't move it around. So if I ever ask anybody that, that's why. So after the estimate, if the client decides to move forward, I do ask for a down payment, and that kind of just confirms that your piece is going to get into the garage and that I can purchase the materials necessary to complete your project. And then the process begins. So during that process, I love to send my customers little sneak peeks of like, hey, your piece is in the spray booth today, or hey, look at this hand painted stuff I did. And then the final thing is they get these beautiful finished photos. And the reaction to those is literally my favorite part. It's not about the money for me. It's about the reaction that they give me. It's the best. So I do notify the client a few days before the piece is ready to pick up so that they can make sure they have space for it. And we also offer delivery. So that's just kind of the rough outline of how things go. And then I wanted to give you some rough averages. So I am seasonal, right? In my busy months, June, July, and August, I'm averaging 12 to 18 pieces per month, which is like, it's a lot. These pieces vary in size. So if they're smaller pieces, I can kind of hit that upper mark. If they're bigger pieces, I can hit that lower mark. Rough breakdowns, I'd say half of them are client owned. So those clients are bringing me those pieces that they currently own and want refinished. 30% is picked from my inventory. And then 20%, I'm just having fun. I'm still doing what I love to do. I'm creating unique designs and I'm throwing them out there for sale. What's really interesting is the rate of return. So most customers aren't just stopping with one piece from me. I have clients that are above 6, but I would say the average is like 1 to 6, which is really, really cool. And that's the biggest compliment, is that I'm creating work that make people come back. Like, that's awesome for me. And then my target market, mostly women, 25 to 60 years old, people moving into new spaces or moving into different spaces. I get a lot of people like, hey, I moved into a new house and I want to just change everything up. Perfect. You came to the right spot. So I also wanted to give you a little breakdown of costs because I am always curious to know kind of what people think about it. You know, pricing and money is never an easy thing to talk about. So as entrepreneurs, I feel more comfortable talking to you about it. But so dressers and credenzas, they're roughly $400 to $600 based on what we do with it. Sometimes they're a little bit more if it's a really rare piece of furniture or a brand name, something like that. Desk, depending on size, about $300 to $400. End tables and smaller items, you're in that $150 to $250 range. And then chairs are $100 to $150 each. So again, just kind of rough breakdowns. And then here are my next steps for Studio 111. Some of them have question marks because we're still growing and I'm still figuring things out. So I need to choose, am I going to continue to be seasonal versus full-time? COVID has kind of turned everybody upside down. So it's been a really interesting time for me to look at my business and to look at my other full-time job, which is a teacher. So I have some choices to make there. The second thing is I've been dabbling in the idea of a retail space. I get that question a lot. It's very interesting to work out of your personal residence. You wonder like, oh, will people take me seriously? What does that presentation of pulling up to a private home look like to a customer? So is the investment in a retail space something that I should move forward with? For the most part, my clients are super duper great and they think it's like awesome and hilarious at the same time that I work out of the space that I do. So part of it is maybe like, oh, that's kind of part of my niche. That's part of my quirk, but something to think about. Number 3 is taking on some part-time employees. So my mom is my part-time employee right now, but she gets paid in furniture. She likes furniture as much as I do, and she's so sweet. It's a great time for us to just socialize and spend time together, and she helps me like, Mom, what do you think about this? Like, oh, you should paint it navy blue. Great, I'll do it. It's just a really fun time for us, but realistically, I do need to start considering taking on some employees to help me keep up with the workload. One thing I do, it's a goal for this year, is I want to start doing some online tutorials for folks. I do get a lot of questions about like, hey, Jonah, how do you top coat white paint? Well, let me write you 5 paragraphs about how to top coat white paint without tannins from the wood bleeding through. So I think things like that would really help people. And in addition to that, I'd like to continue some partnerships that I've started with product vendors and then other local businesses and artists. So a couple things I'm really excited about. The gals down at Vintage Junkies and Sparrow Antiques, they rep a brand. It's called the Real Milk Paint Company, and it's an all-natural paint that they sell in their store. And so they were kind enough. They were like, hey, try this out. And so one thing I want to do is create some videos and online tutorials, both for my customers and for theirs. You know, how do you use this product? Because it is a little bit different. It's not like a latex paint that you're taking out of the can. Like, you have to mix it, you have to brush it right. Can it be sprayed? Those types of things. And then another thing I'm really excited about is a piece that's coming up. I worked with a local artist. Her name is Kate McLean, and she is a local welder, and she's been on the sculpture tour. I was like, whoa, like, you're big time, girl. And she created some really cool handmade hardware for me, as well as a base for a dresser. So that will be coming up soon. And I'm constantly looking for those relationships, continuing to build those different collaborations, because I want to keep offering my customers, offering my followers interesting things that are like, oh, I've never thought of that, or oh, like, that's a product I could try and I could use. So that's kind of where I'm going. So yeah, that's Studio 111.
Awesome. So now we'll open it up for some Q&A. If you are on the Zoom call, feel free to either drop your questions in the chat or open up that participants tab and click the raise your hand button. if you're joining us on Facebook, you can feel free to drop some comments in the comments section there, and I'll also catch those to intersperse into the conversation. So Hannah, let's go with you.
Hi, Jonah. Good seeing you. Great job.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. So, I think you mentioned that you're kind of just creating an inventory. So you showed us a picture. And so I've seen on your Facebook page that you'll post something and say the price and maybe something sweet about it. Do you just have like an online space to look at your current inventory, like all in one? So like if I would go through Facebook, I don't know what's still available or not, but I'm one of those people that I don't have a vision, but when I see something, I'm like, yeah, need that. So I think that would be a cool opportunity before you step into retail space. I don't know, just feeling that out.
No, for sure. And I hear you 100%. On my Facebook page, there are several albums, which I think I need to do a little bit better guidance of like, hey, followers, go here. Because there's an unfinished inventory album. There's a completed, like, hey, these have been sold, but use them as ideas. And then there's also an album for pieces that I do have for sale, which I'm very thankful. It's usually pretty sparse. My pieces don't last very long, which is amazing to me. But yeah, and I understand that comment 100%. And I'm wondering, like, is that information better suited on my website? Or should I be doing a better job consistently posting, like, people directing them to those albums?
Yeah, the less work, the better. So if you just have one link, always post that link in your stories, post the link every time you post an item to direct them, what else do I have? Then I will more likely go there than have to find the album and have to go to the Facebook page to find the album. But either way, that's really good to know that I can keep shopping.
Yeah, and thank you for this suggestion. I've been thinking about that. Like, how do I get people there? So I appreciate it.
Awesome. Becca's got her hand up. I'm guessing you've got some info on this.
Yeah, right. Hey, I have a question. You had kind of asked us our feedback on your pricing structure, and I don't know how you present that. I was wondering what your feedback from your customers or your potential customers has been.
Yeah.
Do they think that's crazy talk, or that's right what they were thinking, or what's the feedback you're getting from your customers right now?
I would say that most people, they're like, yeah, great, sounds good, perfect. I've had a few like, oh, well, that's a really good price. That's kind of cheap, which I'm always like, awesome.
Right.
Very rarely am I getting the like, oh, that's just not in our budget right now. I do get some of that,
sure.
Especially for like some pieces, like, oh, it's a small dresser. But it's in that upper price range just because of the brand or what it's made of. So there is some definite kind of differentiation in the value they put on the size of the piece.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Do you, so then when you are going to restore their product, then you do a quote for them? That's what you were talking about. Yep. Different than when you make your own piece and it's just, this is the price, this is for sale, go.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Elaine.
Jonah, great job. Thank you for presenting.
Thanks for the invite and the heads up.
I sent your account to my dad, my husband, like many people. I think what you do is amazing.
Thank you.
And I really, truly think you have like top quality compared to so many other refurbishers or whoever are out there. I think you do a great job.
Thank you.
A few things that I love that you do. I love that you name your pieces. I think that's very much a branding thing. And it makes it feel more personal to the piece. So I really love that you do that. So keep doing that. I think your return customers, I think it's more than they like what you do because they obviously like what you do, but I think you make it personal. So I love that you do that. So you're giving them updates, and I think that's you just being you, but it's very smart. And I think it helps customers just feel more involved and engaged with you and the piece. So I think that's great. I think right now is a great time for people to want to change things in their houses, whether it's a piece they have sitting in the corner, or they're just like, I just need a new scenery. I'm sick of looking at these four walls. I need something new. So I feel like now is a really great time, as you probably know.
Yeah.
And then I guess I want to ask the question, what will it take for you to go full time? So I'm not saying like you would quit teaching, but like, what does it take? What are you waiting for, I guess, if you were to dig deep down?
Oh, it's just a pull on the heartstrings. I love my job as a teacher. I love working with kids, and I mean, I'm the art teacher. Like, I'm the fun teacher. So, I don't know, it's just hard. And I think any type of change is difficult. I think the one thing that is a really driving force is like, I need to not work in the space that I'm working in right now. And so Erin and I have had lots of conversations of like, do we just do it? Do we rent a space and it's going to be your 9 to 5, your full-time gig? Or our other idea is we're going to build a shop, which logistically in the financial aspect just makes a little bit more sense for us. We've just had a couple things come up in our lives that we're just not ready to do that yet, but it's in the future of our planning. And so that's the route I think I'm going to go. So I do see myself taking this full time. And I think that once we have that more official space, a better setup, it'll be go time.
Cool. And I understand the not wanting to leave teaching. That's very much a passion career. And you seem like a great teacher, and I'd be sad to see you leave. Maybe just think about like how you can bring that into the business, like educational opportunities, whether it is with children or maybe even with like the employees you bring on to fill that, though that won't actually fully fill it. I understand that. So just want to let you know, I love what you do. I think you do great, and I think you do amazing full time. So
thank you. Thanks for your support.
So I'm glad that you brought up the topic of space, because the person with their hand raised next, I believe, is going to bring that up. And it was kind of an idea that I thought would fit really well. So Liz, you want to take over?
Hi. Hello. Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited that you're presenting this morning. I actually had to contain myself to not be the first person to talk because I'm like really, really pumped that you are on this call this morning. So first off, I just want to tell you that your social media is working, because I found out about your studio through, I can't remember if it was Facebook or Instagram, but my friend Sarah French had posted some of your stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is that? This is amazing. I'm so into vintage furniture and breathing new life into it, and design. So we definitely have to talk about that and art design history. I can't wait to meet you and have a conversation about that. So keep going with your social media stuff. I actually saw that post as well where you were interacting with that dresser saying, do you want it to be sage or blue or whatnot? And folks love that type of thing. And I love the way you do those shots where it's the old and the new. That's a really good visual for folks that can't see what it was and what it will be. That's fabulous. So keep that work up. And then, so as Adam was alluding to, myself and Hannah, who spoke earlier, we're both at Artisan Forge Studios off of Claremont. Have you heard of our community?
Yes, I was actually looking into renting a space there in 2018.
Oh, that's great. So 2018, okay. So I think we do have some new potential spaces that might be coming available soon. And so I would love to connect you to the right people to see if the up and coming spaces that are going to be available, if they would fit you and what you would need, because I think your work and what you do would fit our community really well. And I always say at Artisan Forge, like when you're off on your own, you kind of feel like a ship fighting the waters by yourself. But then at Artisan Forge, I feel like we're like a fleet of ships fighting the waters of business and art and just progressing our community as a whole together. And we advertise together and just do a lot of cool events together. And I think that you would be a phenomenal fit. So I'd love to help connect you. And maybe that would be a good step for you guys.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. I've thought about that more, and I definitely would appreciate a community. Like, you can't row the boat by yourself. I mean, you can, but you're not going to get anywhere really fast.
Right,
Um,
right.
So
Can I
I
just
would-
piggyback off Liz real quick? And also just things to keep in mind, like this weekend, we're doing an outdoor pop-up shop. So how cool would that be to just throw some of the furniture outside, and it brings, you know, the people right to you for something that you're already here for. Okay, sorry. Thanks.
I love that. Thank you.
Awesome. We've actually, so Liz brought up the before and after pictures. Patricia on Facebook is asking, how do you create those? Like what app do you use, or like how do you get them to look like
I'm looking it up. Sorry. It's nothing real tech savvy. It's Pic Collage.
Oh.
I just make sure I've gotten better at it because I just started it. Actually, I think Sarah French's desk was the first one that I did, and it was like, it exploded. I was like, all right, I'm gonna do more of that. And so how the pieces is now what I'm focusing on. You gotta like make sure you're at the correct angle, otherwise it doesn't work super well. But yeah, it's just Pic Collage, nothing fancy, and it's a free app.
That's really cool. Hannah in the chat mentioned the pricing, says that she thinks the prices are fair from her experience in furnishing her own studio, and she hates cheap furniture, and it feels like she always overpays for cheap furniture. So she's hopeful to find a gem to add to her studio one day from your collection. So that's really awesome. Ingrid in the chat asked, how is the demand, and could it continue year round as you consider full-time?
Yeah, I think so. You know, Erin and we've been running a lot of numbers and just kind of trying to do a lot of projections, because it's really hard to have a seasonal business and to kind of like guess, can I carry this through the seasons that I'm not working right now? And thinking about it, you know, watching my parents go through the restaurant business, we would have like super busy summers, and the revenue created during the summer would kind of float us during the winter. And in the worst case scenario, I would imagine this business would operate in a very similar manner. You know, my busy months would be spring through fall, new stuff. And then I do see a little bit of a rush around Christmas time. I do some hand painted ornaments. I kind of do some little Christmassy things. And so we see a little surge then too. So I do think that we could create an even stream through the year. Right now, I'm booking 1 to 2 months out. And it's really hard. Again, it's kind of like a situation, because I am having clients reach out and say, hey, I want to get on your list. And I have to respond like, well, okay, I'm kind of booking out until September, and I start to kind of wind down my studio. So, you know, it might be next spring when I can sneak you in. And I've been really fortunate. A lot of customers are like, hey, no problem. Like, I want you to do this piece, only you are going to do it. And they're willing to wait, which just, it blows my mind. And I am so thankful that people think that highly of my business and the work that I do, that they're willing to wait months for me to even look at their piece. But it is difficult. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. Thanks for the question. Yeah.
So one thing that you mentioned, you kind of brushed a little bit on content marketing. So your products are so beautiful, and that there's such a cool process that I don't think people understand to get to that finished product, that I think you could content market the crap out of this. Like if you do time-lapse videos of products from their start to finish, and just post that time-lapse video of the transformation and you working on it. Or like you were saying with the paint tutorial, there might be people who are looking for paint and wanting to see kind of what paint is out there that's natural. Well, what are those people probably also doing? They're looking to furnish their home. And so they may also find your products then based on your content that's kind of tangentially related to what you're actually doing with your business. So I think you're in a really cool and a really good place for your content marketing strategy to really kind of get behind that sort of a thing. And we did a workshop at CoLab with Josh Rizzo of Satellite 6. I can shoot you that recording as well so that you can kind of get some knowledge on. He did an awesome content marketing workshop that kind of dives through blog postings, video content marketing, and there's a third one that I can't remember right now, but I think that it'd be a great thing for you to get on, and I know that I would love to watch the process from start to finish of you finishing a piece.
That would be great. I would love to see that.
Yeah. All right. Patricia also on Facebook mentioned, consider job share teaching to free up more time for your business as a way to work forward, or way to work towards full-time in your business. So that you wouldn't totally be ditching teaching, you'd be kind of transitioning into it. So
I think that's a really great idea. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. If there are any more questions, feel free to drop those in the chat or raise your hands. Otherwise, the last question that we always ask of our presenters is, what can we as a community do for you?
Of course, any kind of support and sharing on social media. I just so appreciate, it's just anything. I just sincerely am so grateful. But in addition, my husband kind of always makes fun of me because I'm very like art minded. I'm not really number minded, and he is. But so if anybody has connections with like a business accountant, or hey, I use this system to do my invoicing and it works really well for me, I would be very interested in that information as I continue to move forward and business continues to pick up. That would be helpful.
Awesome. Jonah, would you mind dropping your email in the chat so that those of us on the call that have that info could connect with you?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for sharing your story. It's a really cool business and a really interesting addition to Eau Claire. So,
well, thanks so much for having me. I had a great time.
So I just wanted to say I apologize for hopping on late. I had another meeting I couldn't get off, so I missed your presentation, but I had reached out to you once because I found you on Facebook, and I wanted to know if you had a retail space because I wanted to visit it so bad. And so I mentioned it at 1 Million Cups organizer meeting, and Elaine's like, oh my gosh, I know her. She's fantastic. So I just had to chime in and say thanks for being here, and I look forward to following you and hopefully buying a piece at some point.
Oh, thank you. I so appreciate that.
You bet.